Today we talk about daily bread. Next week we talk about your heart. And then in week 3 we talk about fair versus grateful. When Jesus talks about abundant life, he mentions it in a book in the Bible called John, in chapter 10 and verse 10, and when he talks about these two words in this context, he is not meaning that we live longer here on earth, and he's not talking about eternal life, although through Jesus we gain eternal life. Jesus instead is saying that life is better, life is fuller, life is richer with Jesus at the center of it. It is more abundant. And this series is designed to help us kind of look at how that happens. And to start off today, I want to share two quotes, two statements, one by Moses, and then about 1,500 years later, one by Jesus. The one by Moses says this: "No one is to keep any of it until morning." And then the second quote is from Jesus, who says, "Do not worry about tomorrow. Each day has enough trouble of its own." The full statement is this: "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." These two thoughts are connected and will be connected with the thought that we're working on today. So the first one by Moses. It happens at a time when the ancient Jewish people, the Israelites, are in a desert, and they were in a desert for many years, and they were tired and they were hungry. And so God miraculously feeds them by sending quail, birds that fall from the sky, such that all the Israelites had to do was to pick them up and cook them and eat them for their food each day. And that was in the evening. And then in the morning, God miraculously provided something that was like bread. It was like a wafer of bread that they say tasted like honey. By the way, we won't go into this, but Jesus then later on is called the bread of life. But there is this honey bread that God provides for them in the morning, and they called it manna from heaven. So God took care of them and their food, quail at night, manna in the morning, and interestingly, God said, "Now, as far as this manna goes, only collect enough for you and your family for one day. And then tomorrow I'll do the whole thing again. I will send manna in the morning, and I will send quail at night, and I'll take care of your needs." But of course, people being people, some of them weren't sure that God was going to show up the next day, and so when they went out to collect manna, they collected way too much manna in case God wasn't there the next day. And God made manna have a shelf life of 24 hours. To where the next morning that manna was not edible. And God was saying, "Trust me 24 hours at a time for your daily needs. I will come through every single day." So fast forward about 1,500 years now to Jesus. And Jesus is speaking to a group of people who are extremely poor. I mean, they are the poorest of poor in that society. They were struggling with having enough food to eat each day. I mean, literally having enough food to eat. They were struggling with having proper shelter. They were struggling with having clean water each day. They didn't have enough clothing, and so they are consumed with thoughts about tomorrow as Jesus is speaking to them. He knows them, and he knows that all they can think of is their stress and their worry about tomorrow. And so Jesus says to them, look, I don't want you to worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day, each 24 has enough in it. I have created you in such a way as human beings that 24 hours has just enough for you to be able to handle physically and spiritually and mentally. And if you start to think about 25 hours and beyond, it's too much, and it will affect you negatively, spiritually, mentally, physically. It'll affect your relationships. It'll keep you up at night. It'll cause you to eat in ways that you shouldn't. 24 is all I have created you to be able to successfully handle at a time. So don't worry about 25 or beyond. Because I've got that. Remember the ancient story of the Israelites? Remember how I fed them? Quail, manna. So in the book of Proverbs, there is this passage that about a month and a half ago just jumped out at me, and Scripture is amazing in that way. Whereas you can read something 1 year of your life, and then later on at another time, something can just pop out to you and speak volumes to you like you've never seen it before. And it just popped to me one day, and I'm thinking, man, I can get a lot out of this for the rest of my life. So here it is. It is from Proverbs chapter 30, verse 7. And this man says to God, "There are two things that I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die." It's interesting, the more real our prayers get, the more urgent that our prayers are, and I'm convinced that we don't pray real enough, honestly enough, or urgently enough so much of our life, but the more real they are, sometimes the messier they are and the less polite they are. Do not refuse me, oh God, before I die. Don't misunderstand this. He is not saying this. This is not like a last dying breath request. This very well could be, in his young adult life, or it could be middle age. But he is saying, I have come to believe that there are two things that I want from you in life to keep me in line. It's two things. And of course, our mind runs and we say, what would we ask for if we had only two things? Or what would the typical American ask for if they only had two things to ask for of God? Oh, we would say, God, give me money. God, give me this relational problem fixed for the rest of my life. God, give me this house. God, give me, and we'll be surprised to see what he wants. Here's the first thing. Really? You know what I want from you, God? You know what's important enough for me to make it one of two? Keep falsehood and lies from me. This is not saying, God, don't let anybody lie to me for the rest of my life, because God's not going to take control of people and make them into puppets. You know what this is saying? God, do not let me lie to myself any longer. That is so important, God, because so many bad things happen in my life when I'm not honest with who I am. And so, God, this is important enough. I'm going to make this one of two. Don't let me continue to lie about who I am. And secondly, you thought that was interesting? Oh boy, here we go. Secondly, Give me neither poverty nor riches. All I want is my daily bread. I don't want to be poverty poor. And I don't want to be lottery rich. Or honestly, the rest of the world might even say American rich. Maybe. Just give me enough. Just give me remember Moses? Daily provision. Remember Jesus? Daily provision. I don't want to live in poverty and I don't want to live in riches. Just give me something in the middle. Just my daily bread. It goes back to this whole discussion where God has said since the beginning of the Bible, the beginning, thousands of years ago, God has said 24 hours. 24 hours at a time. Daily bread. I will take care of you. It is for your health, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. It is for your own good. It is so that you can live life abundantly. It is so that you can enjoy the moment now. Enjoy today and not be consumed with tomorrow. That I tell you, 24 at a time. And I will take care of that 24, and I will be thinking of 25 and beyond for you. So let's break this down. I want you to think for a moment of all the things that you're concerned about, worried about, stressed out about right now. The things that are on your mind right now. The whole thought of 24. The whole thought of daily bread, the whole thought of being able to really live life abundantly and trusting God right now is this. Whatever it is that you're thinking about, you're consumed about, you're stressed out about, does it 100% have to do with today? You say, well, maybe sort of one does. That's what you think about. And remember, God's going to handle it. And for all those other things that have to do with tomorrow, 25, my today starts when I wake up for me. So I'm already into the 24. Whatever it is that you're concerned about, 100%, are you struggling with Monday at school? It's not Monday. You see, there's something called the drain of possibilities, and that is that our mind is incredibly creative. Creative in a good way that it can help us, or creative in a bad way that it can really cause us a lot of undue stress and harm because we play out the possibilities of 25 and beyond. And generally, the way we play it out is it's negative. It's the worst possible conclusion that whatever it is we're worried about could end up being. That's what we cook up in our mind. And so today we're thinking about Tuesday, and today we're thinking about retirement, and today we're thinking about all of these possibilities, and we become convinced in our mind this is going to be bad, it's going to be terrible. And you know how this works. You found it out in your life, and I've looked at more than one study in which they survey people, and they have found like 85 to 90% of the things that we're worried about today never do happen, or they don't happen to the extent of negative that we think they're going to happen. But it's the drain of possibilities swirling around our head like Velcro. It just sticks. And what it does is it robs us of the joy of today, because we're not in today, we're in tomorrow. We're in Tuesday, and it's only Sunday. Look, when tomorrow gets here, it's today. So the things that you're worried about tomorrow, when tomorrow gets here, it's today. And God says He's going to take care of us today. He's going to take care of the 24. So when tomorrow gets here, it's today. And when Tuesday gets here, it's today. So let's sum this back up again. 2 things I ask of you, Lord, do not refuse me before I die. He goes on, he says, so keep falsehood and lies from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. This goes on. He says, otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who is the Lord? Oh God, if I get too much, I get too much stuff, I know myself, if I get too much money, if I get too many cars, if I get too nice of a house, if I get too good of this or that, I'm afraid, he says, I'm afraid that I either might say it literally or I might live it by my actions as though I say, I'm not even sure I need God anymore. Who is He anyway? Oh yeah, every now and then I come to church Sunday, maybe once a month, twice a month, just to do the God thing. Or when things really go bad, somebody dies or there's really some big struggle, I get all super God thing for a weekend. And then I go back to my life because frankly, I don't need God that much because I've got enough stuff. And this guy is saying, I'm really scared that I would get to that point. Because I don't care how much stuff you have, it is a gift from God. This goes on, it says, or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God. Let's break this down just for a second. I might have too much stuff. I might disown God. I might forget what James 1:7 says, that every single thing, my job, my house, my cars, my clothing, every single thing, if it's good, it is a gift from above. It is a gift from God. Yeah, sure, I worked hard. And yeah, sure, I got education. And yeah, sure, I had to use my ingenuity. But guess where life came from? Guess where breath came from? Guess where the strength of each day came from? It did not come from you. It is a gift from God. And you would not be where you are today without God. And that's the perspective that this writer says I must always keep. Because if I get to the place where I think that most of it comes from me and my goodness, then I will become entitled. I will feel like I am owed this instead of being in awe of what I have every day. And I will only occasionally need God. So let's break this down a little bit more. I'm afraid, he says, if I become so poor, I might steal, and in my desperation, I might do things that I regret, and I might dishonor myself and my family and God. Which, by the way, I don't believe God will ever let us get to that point as a believer, but that's what he's worried about. So summing this up, he says, God, there's only 2 things that I'm asking. First, I'm going to ask you that I don't lie to myself anymore, that I'm truthful. And secondly, I'm going to ask you that I don't get so poor that I do bad things. And I'm going to ask you that I don't get so rich that I forget who you are. I'm going to ask just for my daily bread, because I've learned that trusting you for tomorrow and just my daily bread today is the key to enjoying life today and having life abundantly. You know, the only way I've been able to deal with the Velcro effect in my life, that Velcro that just attaches to the drain of possibilities of all the things that could happen negatively, the only way that I've ever learned to really deal with that is by this 24-hour thinking. Live in today, knowing that God's got today, and when the things that I'm worried about are 25 and beyond, I have to specifically with each one of them say, no, that's tomorrow. No, God's got that handled. No, God's already been thinking about that even before I was born. God's got that in mind. I'm going to give that to God. This is why I've learned now for years, every single day, I pray in the pattern of the Lord's Prayer. Because the Lord's Prayer does, as part of it, it encourages us to ask God for our daily bread, which reminds us then to say, is what I'm praying for and concerned about part of today, or is it tomorrow? And then when I get to that last part where it says, your kingdom come, or by your kingdom, by your power, and for your glory, when I get to that part, when it gets to kingdom, I say to myself, this is your kingdom, this is your life, this is your church, this is your job, this is your house, this is your car. It's not mine. You are the owner. I'm only the manager. I'm going to just manage today with your power. I give it to you. I release that to you. It's today, not tomorrow. You see, our brain is extremely creative, but it is also forgetful. This whole thing is a reminder of what God has done in your life. Think of all the times that God has been there. Think of the times that you were so dirt poor. Think of the times that you might not have been poor, but something really bad happened and you were wondering if you would make it, and somehow you made it. And you might have given credit to just luck or just someone else being good, but it was the gift of God that got you there. Think of the times that you were sick and you just wondered if you'd be able to make it through, and God was there. Our mind says, I will thank God for that at the moment, but then we forget. And we get to today and we forgot about the millions of times God has been good to us. Can you remember a time? Can you remember a time when He was good, and did you make it? Hard question, I know, but are you here today? Just kidding. It wasn't a hard question. Are you here today? Did you make it? Oh, yeah, but man, man, I hurt, and I wish I had this. Listen, God never promised a life without hurt. And God never promised a life that doesn't have dents in our cars. And God never promised just a magnitude of money in our banking account. God never promised that we would not have struggles. In fact, all of that forces us to get back to 24 hours at a time. For if we did not have those things, we would never remember of the 24. Remember? We wouldn't even think about God much. Oh God, do not let me become so dent-free that I forget who you are. You have enough for today? And some of you, in all honesty, if the answer is no, if it's a struggle today, come see me. Come see this church, because this is our opportunity to help you with today. But if you have enough for today, if you have food for today, if you have roof over your head for today, if you have enough health today to get you through, then thank God for that. He has got you through today. And guess what? Those dents that you're worried about tomorrow, when tomorrow gets here, it'll be today, and God will help you with today. So Paul had it all figured out. Remember last week, Saul and Paul, Philippians 4. He says, look, I've learned the secret of all this, of being content. And those times and those situations where I've kind of had enough. In those situations where I've had so many dents and so much rust. Here's the secret. 2 words. Through Him. The 24 can happen through Him. Not you. Not your retirement plan. Not your insurance plan. Not God works through some of those things, yes, but it's all through Him. Through Him, He gives you strength for today, and this is one of those perspectives that we just need to keep taking each day, and to take the Velcro away so that we can live life today abundantly and just breathe and enjoy this day. Breathe. I know it's not perfect. I know some of you hurt right now as you sit there. I know some of you are grieving. I know some of you have enormous financial things that are weighing against you. I know. But more importantly, God knows. Breathe. Don't let it rob you of this day, of the joy of this day, because God will get you through today. And when tomorrow comes, it'll be today. Would you bow your heads with me? We're going to sing a song in just a moment. We're just going to sing verse 1 that reminds us to just turn our eyes upon Jesus. And the things of this world, the struggles that seem too big for today, will begin to fade away in His power, in His glory. And the things of 25 and beyond will seem doable because we're reminded that when we get to tomorrow, it's today. Breathe, my friend, and enjoy the presence of God. Some of you say, man, I want that so bad. But I just don't know who God is. I just am not sure if I'm even His child. So let's just do a little heart-to-heart silent prayer with God. Just say something like this in your own mind. Oh God, the Father of today, the Father of the 24, the Father of eternity, the Father of my heart, my Creator, the one who holds me in the palm of His hand, I come to you as your child, and I just want to start the relationship today. And oh God, you know, there's just something that's sticking out of my mind. There's some things that aren't quite right, and so just silently, I just tell you about them because I'm your child, you're my loving parent, and I just want to get this right with you. These are things that aren't quite right between you and me, so I confess it to you today. Forgive me, oh God. Come into my heart. Take care of the 24 and the 25 and beyond. And some of you have done this before, but you just need to be reminded, 24, not 25. You just need to be reminded. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Let's sing.